My name's Gabriella Hirst. I'm an artist. I'm originally from Australia, from Camarago land, and I live in Berlin. And in my work, I explore practices of care and control and the maintenance of systems of power. I work across different media. I often work with moving image, with the garden as a site of care and control, and also with sculpture. And research is really important in my practice. And the work that I've been developing for this exhibition has come out of a long and meandering process of research in collaboration with the curators, Pandora and Sarah. So Ambergris is part of a new body of work and a new body of research that I've been undertaking that takes as its starting point stories and myths of men being swallowed by whales. I became really fascinated by this imagination of the whale as a site where people could be swallowed and inhabit and light candles and write books and maybe find other people within as an image that has recurred through children's storybooks, through biblical texts and through myth, when it's actually physically impossible for most whales, if not all whales, but definitely all baleen whales, to swallow a person whole. This was a starting point to then look at the whaling industry and the whaling industry as a precursor to petrocapitalism and petroleum industry. So at the height of the whaling industry, whale blubber was used to light the street lamps in London. That fat was used to lubricate industry. The baleen from the whale's mouth was used to make police batons, to hold in women's bodies through corsetry. It was used in ink. The light from the whale's body lit a lot of Enlightenment science. And so there's an intimacy to this type of extraction that I was really interested in kind of trying to understand. And whilst I was working through these various ideas and this research and this talk and this writing, I also started making my own scrimshaw on these big petroleum plastic agricultural sheets, trying to kind of map out my ideas and to create some kind of logic. And what was produced eventually through this process of scrimshaw, of etching, is a body of work that I'll be showing at the Sainsbury Centre. So this sculpture takes the form of a large baleen blind. It's a semi-translucent slatted blind. It's 3 meters long. It's, I think, 2 meters high, upon which is etched a very intricate drawing that includes things that I've imagined have been caught in the mouth of a whale as it basks through the oceans and through the development of industrial capitalism. So some of these things are imagined, some of these things are physical. There's the anchor of the Pequod from Moby Dick. There's body parts from Jonah and Geppetto and Ahab. There's the heart of the sea from Titanic. There's the oysters from Alice in Wonderland. Popeye's in there. The Little Mermaid's in there. Pinocchio is in there. Cotton plants, different fruits and vegetables, seaweed, schools of fish. It kind of starts to read like this strange poem. It's this whole kind of stream of consciousness that also tries to kind of tap into these various threads of thought that I've pulled into my research as I've been developing this body of work. The blind is then threaded with kite string, and depending on the angle of light that you see it at, different parts of the drawing are revealed. And I decided to work with this particular material, I guess, because I was thinking about this development of petrocapitalism from the whaling industry, and this particular plastic, to me, spoke to that particular story. And it also is a really interesting and kind of ugly material that has this strange bleached deep sea thing about it, and depending on the light has a kind of shimmery mother of pearl thing too. So one of the many stories that I came across whilst I was drawing out these different aspects of the relationship between the whaling industry and stories of men being swallowed by whales was a story, a George Orwell story that's called, I think it's called Into the Belly of the Whale. And it speaks of the idea of a translucent whale as being the ideal place for a person to write within. So to break that down, he speaks about, he was writing this just in the lead up to World War II, and he was talking about about artistic responsibility when you're writing. So if you were to be swallowed by the whale, you could be entirely sheltered from all of the battles that are happening at the surface of the sea, and just ride along as if in what he calls it, as if in a womb. And he then kind of expands on that idea and says that the ideal place for a writer, the perspective of a writer, would be inside the body of a transparent or translucent whale, so that you can be protected from the world, but you can see outside of it. And it stuck with me. And so that's potentially also one of the things that I've been thinking about with these sculptures, these Ambergris sculptures, of kind of creating these objects that speak to domesticity and speak to being held within. I do really like that the premise of this season, Can the Seas Survive Us, is an open question, and then to be part of this, to be amongst all of these artists and writers who are grappling with that question, and maybe not trying to answer it, but also to come up with more questions, is really fascinating.